Hello and welcome to Everyday Biophilic. So this is the first voice podcast and hopefully there are many more to come. So firstly, thank you for being here. My name is Rachel and I've been posting on different platforms for a few years now, sharing thoughts around nature, interiors, well-being and the way spaces affect how we feel. But this feels different and I want this space, Substack, to be a bit slower, a bit deeper and more conversational. Less polished sound bites, more real conversations and deeper dives. Because honestly, that's the type of content I love reading. It's the kind that leaves me feeling like I've actually understood something. Not surface level, not overly complicated, just ideas explained in a way that's interesting, useful, and feels human. So, no, you don't need to be an architect or an interior designer or know any design terminology to be here. I really want this to feel like a deeper dive into those ideas for everyday people. Because whether we realise or not, the spaces around us affect us constantly. How we feel, how we rest, how we focus, even how connected we feel to ourselves. I think most people already know this instinctively. And that's really what everyday biophilia is about. Looking at the relationship between people, nature, and the spaces we spend our lives in, and asking how we can make those spaces feel better to actually live in. So I thought the best place to start was right at the beginning. What actually is biophilic design? Imagine waking up in a space that feels energizing before your first coffee. A space that doesn't just look beautiful, but makes you feel calmer, clearer, more grounded. A space where you're not already reaching for your third coffee before 10 in the morning. We all know that feeling. That's the power of biophilic design. And importantly, it's not just another interiors trend. It's an approach grounded in biology, psychology, and one simple truth. Humans need nature to function well. So the term biophilia means love of life. It was first coined by psychologist Erich Fromm. It was Edward Owen Wilson who really developed the idea in the 1980s. He argued that humans have an innate desire to connect with nature, and when we're cut off from it, our bodies know. Our stress increases, our sleep suffers, our creativity dips. And when you think about modern life, that starts to make a lot of sense. Humans now spend around 90% of our time indoors. Cities are much louder, screens are brighter, and life generally feels faster. And then we wonder why so many people feel anxious, distracted, overstimulated, and burnt out. Biophilic design asks a different question. What if the spaces around us could help heal us instead of exhaust us? Now, before we go any further, I think it's important to clear something up. Biophilic design isn't about putting a few plants in the corner of a room and calling it wellness. That's usually where the conversation stops online. But true biophilic design goes much deeper than that. It's about creating environments that feel alive, spaces that mirror the rhythms, textures, patterns, and complexity of the natural world. One of the most useful frameworks comes from Terrapin Bright Green, who outlined 14 patterns of biophilic design. But to simplify it, it really comes down to three core ideas. The first is nature in the space. Things like sunlight, airflow, water, views of trees, sky, maybe even fire. Elements that engage the senses and reconnect us with the natural environment. And interestingly, that doesn't always have to be real. Even artwork, textures, or imagery inspired by nature can trigger positive responses in the brain. The second is natural analogues. This is where materials and textures become really important. Wood grain, stone, clay, linen, even patterns that remind us of nature. Leaves, waves, fractals, organic forms. There's something about these materials that feel instinctively calming because they're familiar to us. We recognize them on a biological level. And the third is something called the nature of the space. This is about how a space makes us feel spatially. Openness balanced with refuge, curves, depth, nooks, corners, a sense of mystery and flow. Because the best spaces don't just look good, they feel good. You walk into them and your shoulders drop, your breathing slows down, you want to stay there a little longer. Biophilic design also helps explain why environments feel uncomfortable. Your nervous system often recognizes a space before your conscious mind does, and the opposite is true too. Biophilic design also explains why some environments feel uncomfortable. Sterile spaces, windowless rooms, harsh artificial lighting, even cold materials. Researchers sometimes refer to this response as biophobia. It's essentially our nervous system reacting negatively to environments that feel unnatural or even hostile. And once you notice it, you can't really unsee it. So, what are some of the key ingredients that make a space feel right? So, natural light is probably one of the biggest. It acts as like a biological reset button. It regulates hormones, sleep cycles, mood, and energy. And that's why daylight matters so much. Large windows, skylights, soft daylight mimicking bulbs. These things aren't luxury, they're essential for our well-being. Then there's material honesty. By this I mean materials that are true to themselves. They show scuffs and marks and wear over time. They're real, honest materials because not everything needs to look factory perfect. Because imperfections can tell a beautiful story. Air, water, and movement matter too. Spaces should flow, air should circulate, and not every sound needs to be eliminated. We've become so used to trying to block out the world that we forget some sounds are actually regulating. Bird songs, rain against a window, the crackle of a fire or a candle. Natural sound tends to calm the nervous system in ways synthetic noise often doesn't. And then there's the layout. Spaces should respect the body and encourage connection and conversation. Seating that allows conversation, windows that support natural light throughout the day and help regulate circadian rhythm. And importantly, spaces for refuge too. Open plan living has its place, but so do cozy corners. Window seats, reading nooks, places to pause and retreat. Another thing that I think we've lost in modern design is connection to a place through local craftsmanship and materials. And there's something so powerful about spaces that are rooted in their environment. Local timber, clay, slate, materials that belong to the landscape around them. It creates harmony almost automatically. And what's interesting is that biophilic design doesn't really compete with other design philosophies. It actually works alongside many of them. Minimalism, Scandinavian design, feng shui, wellness design. At their best, many of these approaches are really asking the same thing. How do we create spaces that support human well-being? Because ultimately, this isn't just about pretty interiors, it's about how we live. Our homes, workplaces, and environments are either helping us rest, heal, and focus, or they're quietly draining us every single day. The built environment is not neutral. It shapes our hormones, our habits, our attention, our emotional state. And once you realize that, design starts to feel much more important. Not because we're chasing some perfect Pinterest aesthetic, but because we're learning to ask better questions. How does this space make me feel? And maybe more importantly, how do I want to feel? That's really what this Substack is about. Exploring those ideas slowly, one concept at a time. Practical, human, and always rooted in nature. Thank you for listening.